On the phone now, Peter King, perhaps my favorite writer in the business. Read his column each and every Monday morning with a cup of coffee. I guess, Peter, the only thing I could ask for is if it came in actual newspaper form so I could turn the pages like some of the old guys like me like to do.
Hey, Dan, thanks so much. I mean, I when I was in high school in Connecticut, I used to my dad used to go out and get the Boston Globe every weekend, and and I remember the way I got the whole idea and how cool it would be to write a notes column like this is from Peter Gammons in the Boston Globe. And I used to love the Sunday Boston Globe with Peter Gammons and Will McDonough and Bob Ryan and all those guys, later Jackie McMullen, and it was a treat, and it sort of taught me this weird little genre of writing way, way, way too long. It seemed too long, a full open page in a broadsheet newspaper in those days, and I've taken it to ridiculous lengths now, in annoyingly ridiculous lengths. But anyway, it's kind of what I do.
Well, what you did this week is you visited with former Packers head coach Mike McCarthy, and my biggest takeaway there is that he has started to study things that maybe he didn't study as much in the past. When he comes back, and he plans on coming back to be the head coach of a football team, hopefully next year, he wants to have a 14-person football technology department. The reason this struck me, Peter, is because there are several teams around the NFL, more than a handful, that don't have a technology department, period. They don't have one person that's in charge of analytics. They'll stick a scout or two to look at a couple of analytics reports or the next-gen numbers that they get from the NFL and from their GPS tracking devices. But he's going in an entirely different direction.
Well, I think, Dan, in the last 4 or 5 years, in fact, one of the interesting things that McCarthy has done is he's looked at every team in the NFL and tried as best he could through team websites and team personnel directories. He's tried to figure out how many people in every organization are assigned to the study of analytics and sort of advanced statistics and numbers. And he believes, he spent some time at Pro Football Focus in the off season, and he just believes there is a lot of upside. And the funny thing is, in the story, I was telling him that James Holzhauer, the Jeopardy champion who won $2.7 million, he demolished the field there, I think, for 32 shows last summer on Jeopardy. And because McCarthy was talking about the kind of people he wanted. He wants outside the box thinkers. He wants people coming to him and saying, "Why do you do it this way? This way is better." And I told him about Holzhauer, and he said to me, "I want to talk to him." And so, look, Holzhauer wants to work in analytics in baseball or football, but I just think that McCarthy understands that if he's going to get back into it and an owner and a president, a GM are going to entrust their organization to him, they want to make sure that he's a modern guy and open to a lot of the new things that characterize football these days.
Well, along with Marvin Lewis and Ron Rivera, they're going to be former NFL head coaches on a lot of people's lists. Lincoln Riley, Matt Rule. Of course, you have the assistants like Josh McDaniels and Greg Roman, maybe even Wink Martindale. You talk about the analytics department that some teams have and some teams don't have. Every team has a video department. Let's just bang this Patriots question out of the way right now. Did we learn anything by seeing that video that Jay Glazer and Fox released over the weekend that we didn't already know, or that changes how the NFL will hand down a punishment? Because I'm assuming there has to be some sort of punishment handed down.
Oh, there will be, I think. Mark Maskey wrote in the Washington Post over the weekend that it's unlikely to be a mega sanction. It's more likely to be either a a lesser draft choice or a reduction, in where the draft choice is taken, along with, significant fine. But I thought, let's give a hand to Jay Glazer. He's a pretty good detective, and good for Jay for getting that so we could see it and we could see exactly what it is the NFL is looking at. I think that is good for the public, but I don't really see how it changes the investigation by the NFL. Instead of now 20 people seeing this tape, maybe 10 million, will see it. But I don't really think that materially changes the investigation. The Patriots are going to claim and have claimed that this guy was doing what he thought he should be doing to do a good job to tell the story of their advanced scout. And, he obviously did not do that. There are going to be some people, including several coaches in the NFL, I can tell you firsthand, who are going to say that's a bunch of BS. Nothing happens there without Belichick's fingerprints all over it. And I've said to several of them, we haven't heard of this for years. Somebody just bringing a camera into a press box and automatically just taping the sidelines. I mean, this is the first time they've done it in years, or do they do it in some other nefarious way that we don't know? And why would they do it so that it was observed by 250 people in a press box at an NFL game? It seems a little bit weird, quite honestly, to think that this is some organized plot on the part of the Patriots.
I just think it's an entirely different department, and I think Bill Belichick is worried about the game planning, not the program that's going to be featuring an advanced scout and the video that they shoot for that. It's just, I don't know. I like to believe in the good in people, and I understand.
I know what you mean, Dan.
In one sense.
I think maybe me and you are in the minority here.
I agree. Well, and you know what? The Patriots made their own bed. I mean,
Exactly.
historically, they have to answer these questions for a reason.
Zero benefit of the doubt. Dan, one person who was at the NFL meetings last week came back with this sentiment. I said, what was it like there when the Patriot subject came up? And he said, well, it wasn't really talked about too much, but I think the majority of us feel like if it was any one of the other 31 teams, nobody would have thought anything of it. But it's the Patriots, so now everybody's antennae are up.
No, you're absolutely right. With Peter King from NBC Sports, great football writer. Every Monday morning, he pens his column, Football Morning in America. Let's talk a little football now. Such a jumbled picture in the NFC, Peter. You have four teams that could either be a number 1 seed or a number 5 seed who are in the postseason right now. What's the main team, the one team in the NFC that you look at and you say, man, I would not want to play them right now?
Wow. I would say I really want to see New Orleans tonight and see how they play. I would say still probably San Francisco. And I know that people in Seattle will scream at that, but when the 49ers and Seahawks played a month ago, George Kittle did not play. George Kittle right now is one of the most influential non-quarterbacks playing the sport of football. He won that game in New Orleans. He did it. Making that play at the end. And so I would say probably San Francisco, but I could also give you a good argument for the Saints. And certainly, I mean, all Seattle does is win. I wrote in my column today, Dan, think about what Seattle has done. Seattle had 5 Eastern time zone games this year, every one of which was played at 10 a.m. on their body clock, and they went 5-0. I just think that is one of the most remarkable accomplishments of this or any other recent season.
That's incredible. And that defense is not the same Seattle defense that we've seen in the past, but when they have a lead at halftime, they seldom give it up. They are so good at holding on to a lead, or the Seahawks. Let me flip this to the AFC, Peter. I'll give you the order of teams that I don't want to see if I'm in the AFC playoff picture right now. You got the Ravens. It's kind of the Ravens and everybody else. I feel like Kansas City has an upward trending arrow because Patrick Mahomes is healthy. A lot of people would want to put the Bills on this list after their win last night. And I'm not ready to put them ahead of New England. And I hate to break it down to, its most bare sense here, but I'm not going to trust Josh Allen in the postseason over Tom Brady, even if Tom Brady doesn't have a single weapon.
I might be ready to put them ahead of New England. It's been so long since you've seen the Patriots play a really, really good offensive game. This is a fantastic test for the Patriots Saturday afternoon in Foxborough, because to me, they're going to have to win by winning the turnover battle. I just don't think their offense is going to put up more than, say, 17 points alone on this Buffalo defense.
Do you like having 3 games on Saturday? Because I think it's delicious.
I love it. Yeah, I love it, especially because every game has a little something to it. I remember doing the schedule story at the beginning of the year, or in April, sitting there with Howard Katz and Mike North and their crew there. And one of the things that they talked about is really trying to get the late season games that they were going to put on nationally to all mean something. So they had this thing where they were going to put 3 of 5 games on late in the year on a Saturday, which is probably a pain for some fans who make travel arrangements to go to games, but it's fantastic for the TV fan because that gives you insurance that you can put 2 games on Sunday that are the least attractive ones out of those 5, and you can have 3 nationally televised games on Saturday on NFL Network, all of which should have some little playoff factor to them.
They're great games. I mean, the first one's going to be the Texans and the Bucs, and you could say that's the worst of the 3, but the Bucs have won 4 straight. Jameis is looking great. You wrote about him in your column. Then you have the Bills and the Patriots at 4:30, and then the Rams and the 49ers at 8:15 Eastern is the nightcap, and that's an absolutely huge game. Peter, as a Redskins fan, I thought it was very interesting to see Urban Meyer and Dan Snyder's box yesterday. Is that much ado about nothing, considering he has a couple of his former players on the team?
I don't know. I don't know Urban Meyer. I know that some people who know him well would be very surprised if he ever went to the NFL, ever coached in the NFL, because he's not somebody who sits there and studies the NFL or studies, what's going on there. And I think the other problem with looking at Urban Meyer is that he doesn't have a long shelf life everywhere, he's been, obviously. And again, I have no idea. Maybe it's just he's a buddy of Dan Snyder and they're sitting there watching the game. I don't know. But I didn't draw from that Urban Meyer is going to coach Washington. No.
Peter, last question before we let you go. The league meetings last week, what was the most interesting thing to come out of that for you? Was it a potential of a 17-game season? Was it a change in the drug policy? What? Because there's so many things that could be different 2 years from now.
Yeah, I keep hearing people around the NFL talk optimistically about being able to get a new CBA done a year or so in advance of the end of the CBA, which will be after next season. So, after the draft in 2021 is when the CBA expires. I just simply don't see it, Dan. I mean, DeMaurice Smith, if he makes a deal early, is going to have everybody saying he caved to the owners. So unless they make an incredible demand and say, we want 52% of the gross, and the owners say, okay, and end it that way, then I could see the thing ending. But I still think this is going to be a drawn-out process and is going to take at least a year. Now, again, I'm not in there. You're not in there. We don't know. But I haven't heard many reasons to be optimistic. Eric Winston, the NFLPA president, told Dan Kaplan of The Athletic a week or so ago that he looks at some of these reports about optimism and he said, where is that coming from? He doesn't see it. So anyway, we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm curious to see certainly how that plays out. The 17-game season is a topic that many have discussed. Peter King, NBC, his Football Morning in America column is a must-read each and every Monday. Hey, Peter, thanks for the time. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Dan. All the best to you.
You as well.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.